I'm about to tell you in this video will change the way you watch rugby league. It will simplify one of the most overlooked areas of the game and give you a greater insight into how the best teams are already moving ahead of the competition. In fact, this tactic is so new, they're not even really talking about it on the NRL coverage. Rugby league is a constantly evolving sport, and even the best teams can get left behind very quickly if they don't adapt. Penrith could have easily sat back after their 3 premierships, but they are one of the sides leading this tactical change. What has become clear in 2024 is that if you're not adapting, you're very quickly staring down the barrel of a terrible season. So just how are teams adapting in 2024, and who is the best at it already? To get a better understanding of where we are now, we need to go back to 2020 when the 6 again rule was first introduced. This rule obliterated the standing NRL hierarchy and is the biggest change the game has seen since the 1970s. This new rule rewarded teams with big, mobile forward packs who were prepared to make an extra couple of tackles up the other end of the field. Sides like Penrith, Parramatta, South Sydney and Melbourne quickly adapted to those changes, whereas already struggling sides like the Bulldogs, Tigers and Broncos bottomed out even faster. The gap between the good teams and the bad teams went from about average to the size of the Grand Canyon overnight. Points reigned every match and teams were simply belted off the park. But in rugby league, it's only a matter of time before teams start to catch up to what's going on. By the way, if you want more of this, grab a free week of my Patreon in the description. Now, in 2024, we've seen the next evolution. The same tactics that worked in 2020 aren't even applicable now. For those teams that are still stuck in the early days of the pandemic, their foundations are quickly eroding. Now, we're going to look at the first element of these changing tactics. It's the set start. And what I'm talking about is the start of your set during general play, so not off a tap or a scrum or anything like that. Traditionally, teams like to be conservative up their own end of the field, and traditionally sides have looked to their forwards, particularly their middles, to do all the hard yards. But as I'm about to show you, this is changing rapidly, and the penalty for not adapting is rugby league death. If you look at the current top 8, you'll find that most of these sides have some decently sized outside backs. Not only that, but these backs are willing to take the hard carries while their forwards get behind the ball. Cronulla have backs like Ronaldo Mulitalo, Sione Katoa, Jesse Ramian. While you've got sides like the Raiders who've got a nice little mix. They've got the speed of Xavier Savage and the bullocking running of Matt Timoko. And you look at Penrith, who've got the most dominant back 5 the game's seen in a long time. And some of them aren't even that big. What does this add up to? Essentially, all of their forwards get a rest in the toughest part of the field where it's hardest to make meters. But this next part of the plan is really the key though, and it's not getting trapped in the middle of the field. NRL sides throughout the 6 again era have been very good at compressing their middle defence and dominating the ruck. In response, the best sides are now looking to shift the ball to the edges in early tackles. It's where their best players can get their hands on the ball more often and also gives them an opportunity to win the ruck or dominate the next couple of plays. Now we're going to dive into the Rugby League eye test stats which help to bear this out for us. Keep in mind this only incorporates the first 2 rounds of 2023 and 2024. This graph shows where rucks are across the field. They're split into 10 sets of 6.8 metre groups. In blue we have 2023 and in orange we have 2024. What is clear is that 2024 has seen a dramatic shift away from the middle of the field, and the big trend is going to the right edge. Now this may have something to do with the fact most kickers in the NRL are right-footed, so they kick to their opponent's left edge in order to protect their kicking leg. The natural movement is to then shift the ball to their right edge where there are fewer defenders. The next phase of this is how this is playing out in real life, and you'll want to stick around to see how exactly the Panthers and Raiders are shredding their opponents. And for more of this, visit patreon.com/the extended bench. You can get a free week if you sign up using the link in the description. Let's now take a look at how the Raiders and Panthers are attacking from deep and throwing conventional rugby league wisdom out the window. Then we're going to take a look at how Souths and Parramatta are struggling with their 2020 era tactics. Here we have the Panthers working the ball out of their own end on the left edge. After 3 tackles on that side, they have generated enough momentum to now start moving the ball. Isaac Yeo plays a key role in getting the ball clearing. Dylan Edwards' quick hands allow Isaac Tungo to put Morgan Harper in a spin cycle and generate a line break. We see it again, 3 tackles up the left edge, then Yeo to Cleary to Edwards, whose pass to Tungo gets knocked down by Harper. The shape is the same and the Eels only hold on by the barest of margins in this play. In neither of those phases of play did Penrith run the ball up the middle of the field. They were either left or right. Now we go to Penrith versus Brisbane. Again, the Panthers look to go to their right edge. Yo and Cleary have swapped positions and Brisbane defenders are worried about the quick shift. Cleary takes advantage. He throws a dummy and sets off up the field. This time it's the threat of the shift that opens up, but Penrith aren't the only side doing it. The Raiders are using their own damaging backs in Matt Timoko and Xavier Savage to generate line breaks and make easy meters up the edges. Parramatta may have been awful against the Raiders, but a week later, the Cowboys couldn't execute the way the Raiders were. The Raiders go through their hands deep in their own half. They find Savage screaming back against the grain to slice straight through. In the second half, it's Matt Timoko and James Schiller's turn. While the space is created because of a Tarpanay offload, the Raiders are ready for it. And just note how it's a middle forward popping up on an edge to take a carry to generate second phase play. And just to prove it's not a fluke, Matt Timoko again gets thrown early ball inside his own half. He beats half the Eels defenders before setting up Hudson Young for a try under the posts. But what about those teams that were once playing grand finals and are now scraping to make the top 8? Parramatta and South Sydney have found themselves languishing back in 2020 with a set of tactics that are being rapidly outdated. Both sides use big forward packs to both carry the ball and defend. They both average around 81 pass hit-ups, which sticks inside the top 8 for that statistic. But what I'm about to tell you next though is really going to lift the lid on why these two sides are struggling in 2024. The Eels rank 9th for general play passes and the Rabbitohs rank 15th. They don't shift the ball regularly and they prefer to keep the ball in the middle of the field with their big forwards. This means that sides can compress their defence and prevent them from shifting the ball to the edge. Another factor here is they rank only 8th and 9th for support runs. They don't have teammates popping up in support as often as other sides do. Well, what does this all mean? They like to keep the ball in the middle of the field, reduce their passing to limit errors, and put all their effort into carrying the ball. One major difference though is that Parramatta are an offloading team, so they do have opportunities to spread the ball using second phase play. This does alleviate some pressure if they get the opportunity to actually use it, as it does stress the defence to a certain extent, but that's hard to replicate week on week. It's very reliant on conditions, the way that teams defend, as well as how well the opposition's defending and locking the ball up. If you lock the ball up, you don't have to worry too much about Parramatta then playing off offloads. What we are seeing so far from the Rabbits and Eels in 2024 is an inability to move at the times as teams quickly race past them. Well, could this lead to a long-term slide, or will they be able to fight their way back? Click this video here to learn about what else is harming NRL sides.